topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Hello and welcome to the Connected Table Live. We're your hosts, Melanie Young and David Ransom, your insatiably curious culinary couple. We love traveling the world to bring you the amazing people, places, wines, and foods that we experience so you can experience them with us. Today, we're taking you back to Italy, to the beautiful region of Orvieto in Umbria. We're going to be specifically in the northwestern part of Orvieto, which is a very specific area. There's a term for it. What is it, David? It's like Toshi or something. We'll ask our guests. Tuscia. It's a certain special region that we're going to talk about with our guest, who's Giulia de Cosimo, who is a family owner of Argillae, a winery in this region that was started by her grandfather in 1993, and now she is overseeing it. We had the great pleasure of spending time with Giulia and Argillae and learned so much about the soil and what makes these wines. I think it was our first winery visit when we went to Orvieto on that trip. Yeah. So that one, the first one's always the one that just goes, wow.
This was the trip back in June. We've been to Umbria a couple of times, and we've been to Orvieto a couple of times, but this is the first time we really delved into the winemaking in the region.
It was actually really my deep dive. First. So we're going to be joined by Giulia de Cosimo, who I said is now overseeing the winery. So welcome. Let's bring her on.
Ciao Melanie. Ciao David. Buonasera.
Ciao. Yes, it is afternoon, actually probably evening for you. So thank you for taking time out of your evening to join us.
And for our viewers, the backdrop we have is actually in the cellar at Argillae with some of the clay amphora, which we're going to talk about, because we learned that the word Argillae means clay, correct?
Yes. It's the Latin word for clay.
Well, that's a great way to dive deep into
which has a lot to do with the entire region. Really, there's a lot of clay in that region and a lot of fossils and whatnot, and that really helps make the wines unique.
Yeah,
there's a lot of unique things about the wine. But I think what we really should do is, Giulia, why don't we get to know you a little bit? Why don't you tell us your family story and how Argillae came to be?
Yeah, sure, with my pleasure. It's not a long story, as you know, because you've been here for many days and you visited many cellars. We are the youngest cellar in the region, just 20 years old, which is not as much, not as little, but and everything started because of my grandfather back in 1993, as Melanie said. And even though the winery as wine production started back in 2005, so this year we celebrate 20 years anniversary. So it's a big achievement for us. And everything started because my grandfather he was very passionate about wine. And let's say he was somehow connected with the wine, because the main business of my family is still the spirits production. And he was a great entrepreneur in the past. He created one of the largest Italian distillery in the south of Rome, in a small town called Anagni, 1 hour in the south of Rome. And still today, my family is involved in this business, which is spirits production, so grappa, brandy, liqueurs in general. And at the end of his career, when he was, let's say, it was about, I think, if I'm not wrong, 70 years old, he decided that he wanted to have also his own cellar, his own wine production, because as you know, grappa and wine are connected, because grappa is produced through the leftovers of the winemaking.
The pomace.
Yes.
Thomas, exactly. What we call it in Italia, vinaccia, in English, pomace. So what remains after we squeeze the grapes, so a little bit of skins, seeds, pulp. This is the input for the distillation process for producing grappa. So my grandfather traveled all his life for purchasing grappa for his business, the spirits. He fell in love with the wine, of course, and he decided at the end of his career to have its own winery and to produce its own wine, and he made it here in Orvieto.
At that time, 1993, were there, because we visited, it's remote. You're kind of in a remote area. Were there wineries in that area?
Yes, we are 20 minutes drive from Orvieto in the northwest part of Orvieto.
Uh-huh.
Actually, Argillae is located at the very the border with Tuscany. 20 minutes also from the cellar that is San Casciano dei Bagni, so we're in Toscana. So talking about the Orvieto appellation, within the Orvieto DOC appellation, Argillae is the northern, how do you say in English, northern, the winery which is located at the very border with the northernmost, you say, northernmost location, and in where we are, the place is full of clay. That's the reason why we decided to name the cellar after the soil, because it's very much important. Consider that in some parts of the vineyards we reach almost 50% of clay in the soil composition.
50%.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
What is the other 50%?
It's a mix. It's a mix of rocks, limestone, shellfish, fossils, and it's a mix of other, a little bit of sand as well, even though the sandy part of the appellation where you can find a lot of sand is not where we are, it's Corbara Lake, so you visit those other cellars over there. But let's say the majority for us is clay, and this specific composition of soil translate into wine with specific characteristics, with specific, let's say, aromas and structure. So that's the reason why we decided to name the cellar after the soil and not after the family, even though it's a family business.
A lot of complexity and minerality. Now,
and they're pretty remote too. If I remember correctly, even though you're only 20 minutes outside of town,
it's remote.
Orvieto, it's a, you have to climb up into the mountains to get to where you are, and there's a lot of protected land, I think, behind you as well. And there's really not much out there, so you're a fairly remote winery, and I really love that about that area.
Well, there's 120
really
hectares. I don't know what that is in acres, but that's a lot.
Well,
15
a hectare is 2.5 acres.
Okay, so a lot. That's large.
Yeah, I think a little bit less than 400 acres.
Yeah, so we're talking like, wide amount of land. Only 15 of that is under vine.
Right.
So that's really interesting. Now,
and I looked back at my notes, and it is called Tuscia.
Tuscia,
so, Tuscia. It's the corner region of Tuscany and Umbria.
It's like unincorporated special area. Now, what we learned when we visited the Orvieto region is this area was underwater, under the sea for a long time. And so the marine particles are significant. I think you have one that you are going to show us that you found. It's kind of like, wow.
It's a new founding.
What is that? That's like
it's a giant oyster shell.
It's a giant oyster shell or a mollusk of some kind. Wow.
Honestly, I don't know. I just found this new fossil 10 days ago. So it's a new founding, but our soil is full of these marine fossils from the Pliocene age. Because as you said, 1.8 million years ago, all this part of Umbria was completely covered by the sea level. And that's the reason why we find a lot of shellfish and fossils in our ground. And this can look a little bit funny because Umbria is a landlocked region. So we don't have the beach now, but we used to have beautiful beaches in the past. And so we can find still some fossils. But back to the point, this combination is very much important for us because from one side, from one part, we have clay. The other part is mainly made of, as I said already, of rocks and fossils. So what this gives to the wine, what you will find out in our class, mainly from one side we have structure and body, and this is connected with the clay. Because clay soil tend to create wines with a lot of structure and body, because the grapevine has to fight for finding nutrients. It's not a fertile kind of soil. It's pretty much a stuff for the tree, for the grapevine to find nutrients. That's the reason why the wine result in a lot of structure and body. And so this is because of the clay. From the other side, the shellfish, what this marine shellfish gives to the wine, they give, first of all, a beautiful minerality, as you said before, and secondly, freshness, acidity. Because this composition, which is actually, to be totally honest, is not just fossils, is what we call in Italiano scheletro, probably in English skeleton. So it's a mix of shellfish, rocks, limestone, all this texture help us in balancing the pH level in the soil, and this is also in the wine. So we work basically with very low pH. This means very high level of acidity, so beautiful freshness into the wine. So that's the reason why we decided to name the cellar after the soil, because as you understand, it's very, very much important for us and for define our job, what we do.
It sure is. And, clay actually plays a part in your winemaking as well.
Yeah.
Because you have a program where you've created amphora, and it's a really interesting story because most people, when they decide to make wine in amphora, they go to the amphora maker and they say, I'll buy some amphora. You actually took the clay to him and said, I want you to make the amphora from the clay that comes on my property. And tell us that story. It's very interesting.
Yes, that's my special project, actually. I took over. I came here in Umbria. I moved to Umbria back 10 years ago. And I decided at that time to take care of Argillae, to managing Argillae directly myself. So it was a big changement in my life. And as soon as I arrived here, I realized that this soil has a big impact in what we do. And the beautiful side of this impact is the one I told you a couple of minutes ago. But as always, there is also the other part of the medal. You see medal. So the other part, which is actually is a very complicated soil to work in. You know very well that clay tend to retain the water, for example. So, for example, in April, in March, during the springtime, when it rains a lot, we have many problems in working the field, in entering back into the field with our tractors, with our machines, because everything is like a mold. It's very easy to remain stuck into the soil for the tractor. So this is, for example, a negative side, of the clay. And so as soon as I arrived here, I realized these two different phases of our soil. So from one side, this soil is the potential. So it's our big potential for creating amazing wines. But from the other side, it's somehow our limit, especially for working. So starting from this point, I thought, why not to have my soil as the material for creating the base where I can ferment and age my wines. So with this idea, I thought, wonderful. I'm in Umbria. It's full of pottery makers everywhere. You visited Orvieto, so you know that pottery is a beautiful craftsmanship here in this part of Umbria. So it's easy to find pottery makers. So I went to one of the pottery maker, which is closer to the cellar, and I asked to the owner, can you please create an amphora, a vase for me for fermenting and age my wines using my own soil, my own clay? And you know what he said? No, Giulia, I'm sorry. I can't use your clay. And I said, why? You are just 20 minutes drive from my winery and you use your clay for producing beautiful pavement, beautiful vases, beautiful potteries. Why you can't use mine for producing an amphora for me? And he said, first of all, because you have to go to a professional pottery maker specialized in amphora for wine production, because it's a very complicated piece of art to create. It's not that easy. You have to have capabilities and expertise for creating this big vase for fermenting the wine. Sorry. And secondly, you are in the part of the appellation of the Orvieto DOC appellation where it's not just clay; it's clay combined with fossils, with marine fossils from the Pliocene age. So I can't use also your clay because if I use your clay, it's full of little pieces of shellfish and little rocks, and the vase could break while cooking the vase immediately after. So I don't want to take the risk. So Melanie and David, I was very much frustrated because the first answer was a no. And actually I received many no answer because I went to many different pottery makers. And all of them basically told me the same story, that they couldn't use my clay, they were not specialized in amphora for winemaking, etc. So at the end, my background is business administration. So I thought, if I go to the market leader, if I go to the bigger amphora wine producer in Italy for winemaking, of course, probably this company will find a solution for me. So I did the research, and I find out that at that time, so 2016, the market leader for amphora production in Italy for winemaking was Arte Nova, close to Impruneta. Impruneta is close to Florence. It's a beautiful little town with a beautiful tradition for pottery production. So I went there very much prepared because I knew the answer already, but I try the best to convince also this company to make the vase for me. So after 10 calls, I don't know how many calls, 2 visits in that pottery production site, at the end, the owner, Leonardo, one day called me and said, "Okay, Giulia, you are so stubborn that I'm going to make the amphora for you. I'm going to make, but you have to pay everything in advance. Is that okay for you?" I said yes. So I paid everything in advance, and I had my 3 amphora that you have in your background just delivered in the cellar a couple of months later.
So, how many amphora do you have now? I see 2 behind us. And yeah, we're getting a delivery of wine. So David's going to excuse himself quickly.
No problem.
It just happens. So we have 3 amphora behind us. So bottom line, how many do you have now?
In total, we have 6 amphora at the moment. 3 are made with our own clay. So the first 3 are connected with the project I just told you. The other 3 is a new one, and it's connected to a new project in which the way we did it is a little bit different. So there are 2 bays actually, one inside and another outside. Inside there is our clay. Inside there is the pottery maker's clay. Outside there is our clay, and it's a new project. But the wine is not delivered yet, so I will focus more on the first project, which is the one that is still we're still using. We're still connected with the wine we were selling in the United States as well, which is the Primo d'Amphora.
So we were going to get to that, but before we do, just would you clarify for our viewers and listeners who may not understand why and how clay amphora works with the wine? What makes vinification in amphora special? Because it's becoming popular. You hear about it's an ancient technique that is becoming more popular. Why is that, and what does it do to the characteristics of the wines?
Thank you for this question, because it's very interesting to focus on, to clarify what amphora gives to the wine, because there is a big confusion. A lot of people, also professionals, sommeliers, wine sellers, wine importers, distributor, many people are talking about amphora and wine in amphora, but there is a big confusion on what amphora gives to the wine, what doesn't give to the wine. So it's a good opportunity for me to specify, to make it clear somehow. And to describe the amphora, I normally use this example. Amphora for the wine production is just in between stainless steel tanks and barrels. What I mean in between, like the stainless steel tank, amphora is neutral. It doesn't add any flavor into the wine. But like the oak, like the barrels or the big oak cask, the amphora is porous. A little bit less compared to the barrels, but still oxygen coming in and out the amphora.
Right.
So having a wine fermented and aged in amphora means that we have a lot of complexity, which is not added by the vase, by the container, by the vessel, but is naturally developed through oxygenation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little bit different. Let's say somehow that the amphora enhance the aromas coming from the varieties because nothing is added, so nothing covered. For example, when you put a wine in the barrels, you know that you will lose 20, 25, 30, depends on the barrels, 20, 25, 30% of the aromas coming from the varieties because you will get other aromas that are the wine coming from the barrels. So the roasted aromas, the spices, the vanilla. So you know for sure that you will lose some of the primary aromas coming from the varieties. In the case of the amphora, it's kind of the opposite because you will never get something more, but you will have an enhancement of the primary aromas through oxygenation.
It's interesting. Now, does the size of the amphora matter? Because we've seen large, we've seen small. How does that impact it?
Of course, similar to the barrels, the dimension counts because the bigger, let's say, the more oxygenation you have. But you have also to take into account the quantity of wine you have inside the amphora. Okay, so it depends also what you want to get, what kind of wine you want to create. If you want more oxidation, you will go toward the more orange wine, more darker wine. So it's a different wine. If you want a little bit less, you will probably keep the wine in amphora a little bit less, or you will choose for amphora with a little bit different pattern, different kind of clay, which is a little bit more similar to concrete, cemento, rather than to barrels, because you can choose now, before you couldn't, now you can choose the porosity for the amphora, which is a very new technology, let's say, in the amphora production, which still remains a craftsmanship, but somehow now you can choose if you want like 3%, 5%, 6%, 8% breathing with the oxygen. So that's very much important for us as a producer because we can create our own style, our own wine.
Let's talk about the wine that we tasted. Your first amphora wine is called, appropriately, Primo d'Anfora. It's a Bianco. Most of your wines are Bianco white wines, and it's made in amphora. And we both loved it. Talk to us about the qualities of this wine. It's 8 months fermentation and aging in amphora, right? And then it's moved to stainless. Talk to us about this wine.
Primo d'Anfora, as the name of the wine says, is the first. Primo means first in Italiano. It's the first wine of our winery, entirely fermented and aged in clay pots, so in amphora. It's a special project for us because, as I said, we are the first winery in Italy that made the amphora using its own clay. So we didn't buy them already made. We shipped the soil to the pottery maker and they made it for us. So normally when I talk about the Primo d'Anfora, more than name the Primo a wine, I say a project because it's a project of, putting the soil at the maximum level. The idea is to put the soil at an extreme, and to close the circle somehow, because the idea of using my clay, I didn't told you before, but I really want to point out this aspect. The idea of using my clay for having the vase is not for telling you, the wine smells different because I use my clay, or the wine tastes different because I use my clay. It's not the goal, it's not the reason why I did it. The only reason why I did it is to put the soil at the maximum level, to be not just the beginning, but also the end of the process. So it's just ideal to put the terroir that for us is fundamental. We have our terroir in our brand. So for us, it's really, truly our identity at a maximum level. So the Primo d'Amphora, the wine that we're talking about, ferments in amphora without the skin.
Right.
So one important thing that I would like to highlight is that it's not an orange wine. And 9 out of 10 wine made in amphora are normally orange. And this is because the majority of producers tend to use skin contact, maceration, and to exploit the breeding of the amphora. So all these factors combined together create wines with more color, a little bit darker orange. We instead decided to make a completely different wine. So to remove immediately the skins, so the fermentation is in amphora without the skins. Then the wine remains in amphora for 8 months in custom batonnage with the fine leaves. Then we bottle the wine and we wait 2 more years in the glass before releasing in the market. So total process of aging is 3 years because one important message that I would like to tell you is for us longevity. You have been here, so you experience the wineries, the quality of the Orvieto wines. And I think one of the most underrated thing, especially in your market, is the capability of aging of these wines, white wines. That actually they're not just afraid of the time challenge; they improve by the time. That's the reason why we decided to release this wine 3 years later, because even 3 years later, they're still young, they're still kind of a baby. No? So the message, very much important for us, is longevity.
It's interesting. This is a 2022. You started your Amphora project in 2016. The Primo d'Amphora we tasted was 2022. We do want to note that it was a blend of Grechetto, which is Grechetto di Todi is a very signature grape in this area, white grape, and just fantastic. Canaiolo Bianco, which I learned is called locally Dupeggio.
Sì, bravissima.
Because they all have different, and then Malvasia, which adds that little elderflower aspect to it. So you get the like a muskmelon, lemon, yellow flowers, elderflower, a lot of sapidity in this. It's just terrific wine. We both,
it's a lovely wine.
Our notes just both said beautiful.
Yes, let's say the combination of the 3 grapes, we made it like this because first of all, we didn't want to have an international blend. So the product makes sense if we use local grapes that come back in their own soil for fermenting and rest. So we really want to have local grapes. So first of all, Grechetto, as you said, which is our championship, or as I like to say, is the king, the queen of the cellar, is the variety that we have the most. It really represents the Umbra tradition for the winemaking, especially talking about white grape. Is a variety that is spread all over the region and also the border with Toscana and Lazio, as you know. So Grechetto for us is a very, very much important variety. And we decided to blend it with Drupeggio, which is Canaiolo Bianco Toscano. You know, Melanie, in Umbria, and especially in this part of Umbria, in Orvieto, we like to change all the words that are coming from Tuscany.
True. Very true. We've learned that as we travel.
There is a competition with Toscana, so we change all the name. Also Procanico, which is an important variety, is Toscano, the same. But also talking about food, let's change topic for a while. Also talking about food, in Tuscany they have pici, we call pici umbrechelli. Because of this competition, we want to have our own identity, you know? So back to the point, back to the wine, we decided to create a blend that it truly represents Umbria and the native wines from Umbria, because the project makes sense if we use local grape for coming back in their own soil.
Well, it's Umbria, but it's distinctly Orvieto because before we came to Orvieto, we were in Montefalco and we were drinking a lot of
heavy red wines.
Heavy red wine and Trebbiano Spoletino, which is like another completely different type of Trebbiano. You know, in Orvieto, Grechetto is the primary wine, and most wines are made with at least 85% of Grechetto, and then the other blend is the Trebbiano Toscano Procanico, or what we learned, the Canaiolo Bianco, which for me, I think that was the first time I'd had a Canaiolo Bianco. Normally I know it as a red Canaiolo Rosso. So very interesting. We want to touch on a couple of other wines, and also note for our American viewers and listeners that your importer is VS Imports in the United States. Terrific importer. Another wine, and we're going to skip around about, but this one has an interesting history as well, is the Signorello Bianco Superiore. We had the 2024, which is a blend of 5 varieties, and there's a great story behind the name. So talk to us about that wine, because we had it quite a bit when we were dining out, including at your husband's restaurant in Orvieto.
I'm sorry that I don't have the bottle of Signorelli with me, because I would like to show you, but probably you can. I don't know if you can post an image. You can't, right? Because it could help people understand the product behind Signorelli. But in case, no matter. I mean, I can talk.
We'll put it up on our social media feed at the Connected Table.
Okay, thank you.
There.
That would be very helpful for telling a little bit better the project. Let's say.
He can here.
Ah, brava, grande. Thank you so much. Signorelli is a project that was supposed to be limited edition project that became entered the portfolio of Argillae and is with us since 3 years, and is a project dedicated to Luca Signorelli. Luca Signorelli is the most important painter of Orvieto. He painted the Cappella di San Brizio inside the Duomo of Orvieto, so one of the most beautiful masterpieces that we have in our town. Over there you can find a beautiful Apocalypse, a beautiful Final Judgment, which was the best one, so the most beautiful one, before the one of Michelangelo. Then Michelangelo came with the Sistina. He did, of course, a bigger one with more money, because the Vatican Church is richer than the town of Orvieto. But before Michelangelo, the one of Orvieto was the most important Final Judgment ever painted in the history of the Renaissance. So you understand how much important is for us Luca Signorelli, who's the painter. And since 3 years ago, we celebrated the 500 years anniversary from his death. We decided to remember the artist, dedicated him a wine and a label. So we created this special label in which you can see the face of Luca Signorelli and how we made it. This is very interesting, because this is the first label that we have created using artificial intelligence.
So wow, that's an artificial intelligence image. Wow, it's great.
Yes, it's artificial intelligence. So we thought about to use the artificial intelligence because Luca Signorelli has been the modern artist, because he opened the Italian Renaissance. He's among the first artists belonging to the Renaissance, closing the Middle Ages. Mm-hmm. So we thought, it could be nice for us to celebrate the artist with the most modern thing that we have today, which is artificial intelligence. So how the label is made. Making the label, we combined together 5 portraits of Luca Signorelli. And it was not difficult for us to find 5 portraits of him, because at that time, many artists used to paint themselves in the frescoes, in the painting. Right. Because, Melanie, there was no Instagram, no Facebook. So the only way for promoting yourself was to put your face in the fresco. So we combined these 5 portraits of him that we found in Orvieto and in other places, in Rome also. And the result was the face that you see displayed in our label, in our wine, which is probably the real face of Luca Signorelli, according to artificial intelligence. And why?
Incredible! Yeah.
I'm sorry, I cannot show you because I didn't think about the.
I don't know if we can pop it up without disrupting the screen, but something I want to point out that we learned when we did our tour of the Orvieto Cathedral, and this is important for anyone who goes to Orvieto. When this cathedral was constructed, many people did not know how to read. So these works of art, the bas-reliefs, the paintings, the Luca Signorelli paintings, which are around, and they tell the story, and that's how these the parishioners learned about the stories of the Bible through the artwork. And as you said, it was very common for the artist to paint himself into the work, and you see that when you go to look at these beautiful paintings in the chapel. It's in a side chapel in Orvieto, but it just puts it all into context how important this artwork is for telling the story.
it's was a lesson, was a Bible for
Yeah.
people who couldn't read, because now it's common.
Right.
All the people can read, but at that time it wasn't like this. But I take this occasion for inviting all your guests or the people that are watching us to visit Orvieto, and especially to visit the Cathedral of Orvieto, which is a real masterpiece.
Just incredible.
It's one of the most beautiful churches in the world, I think.
And
Yeah.
you know, we had private guide, which I do recommend, because she pointed out the stories, and you could just gaze at them. I mean, the outside with the reliefs is incredible. Now you have 5 grapes in this. The 5 was very symbolic for this wine. Let me see if Grechetto, Verdelho, Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay, Trebbiano Toscana, and Malvasia. Right? I think I got them all. That's a lot. What was the significance again of 5?
Very good question. That's very much important for us. We decided to put 5 grape varieties, which are a lot of for one single wine, for a very specific region, because we want to reconnect this wine with the old Orvieto wine. Because since the creation of the DOC, so 1972 till 1992, the first regulation made it for producing Orvieto admitted 5 different grapes in the blend, different proportion, but 5 different varieties. At that time, the varieties admitted were Grechetto, Grupeggio, Malvasia, Verdelho, and Trebbiano Toscano. So with this wine, we want to reconnect with the past, with the number of grapes used at the origin of the Orvieto DOC creation, but with a modern cut, because we decided to add some international varieties, because this wine represents my idea of Orvieto Moderno. As a young producer, my goal, my commitment is to make Orvieto again trendy, especially among my generations, millennials. So I decided to create this blend, which is super fresh, super fruity and aromatic, not too heavy. The alcohol level is actually 12%, so very easy to drink, but still well done, elegant and refined. So somehow a contemporary kind of wine. And one thing I want to tell you, and want to add at this conversation, is the multitude of varieties, that were admitted in the blend. As I said, from 1972 till 1992, the varieties admitted in the blend for producing Orvieto were 5. And people that are listening to us can ask, why so many varieties? Because there are a lot of varieties for just one wine. And the reason is for what you were mentioning at the very beginning of our conversation today. The reason is Tuscia. Is that Orvieto is at the border with 3 regions: Toscana, Umbria, and Lazio. We feel part, more than Umbria, we feel part of Tuscia, which is not a political region, not a geographical region, but is a culture. So we belong to Tuscia, and the winemaking tradition in this part of Tuscia, so in Orvieto, since ever has been a melting pot of culture. So since ever, the creation of wine has been connected with some tradition coming from Tuscany, some tradition coming from Umbria and Toscana. And if you analyze the 5 varieties, you will find out kind of a contrast among regions. Grechetto from Umbria, Malvasia from Lazio, Grupeggio is Canaiolo Bianco Toscana, Procanico, as we already said, is Trebbiano Toscano, and Verdelho is a biotype, is a clone of Verdicchio Marche. Kind of a melting pot of many years ago. So one thing I want to highlight, not just as a producer of Orvieto wine, but also as a vice president of the consortium, is that today many reviewers, wine critics, complain about our regulation, and they complain the fact that today you can use too many varieties for producing Orvieto, more than 40 varieties you can use for creating your wine of Orvieto. That definitely, don't take me wrong, are too much. But there is an historical reason for this. We have been since ever a melting pot of culture. So since ever here, the tradition is for blending, for putting in the same vineyard many different varieties, because the culture was a mixed culture. So somehow I would like to justify this the Orvieto today, which is the reflection of the past of this culture of blending many different cultures together.
That's the significance of Orvieto wines too.
It is the region as a rule must be blended.
Exactly.
If you make a single variety in a wine and make it 100%, it has to be an IGT.
Exactly.
It can't be a DOC wine. So they do blends. They've always done blends.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting that they did it, I think, originally, as you stated, because they were co-planting the vines all together in the vineyard.
Exactly.
To create, because they knew they were going to make a blend. They weren't trying to separate them. And that still goes on today as they replant vineyards. They're not planting them necessarily to one variety. They're still co-planting in the same vineyard, different vines.
Right.
Yes. The blend was made in the field. Now, honestly, the majority of the blend is made in the cellar. Right. So the case of mixed vineyard are not as common, but still you can find some. Like you mentioned,
there's some that are doing it.
Yeah. Also, in my property, we still have some old vineyards and we still keep them. But at that time, so 30, 40, 50, and even more years ago, the blend was made in the field, not in the cellar like we do today.
Well, I think that's a great story with the Luca di Signorelli, who is the father of colorismo, a style of painting, which is why there's 5 different colors in the bottle as well. So there's a lot of symbolism in the artwork of the bottle, because you've got the 5 different colors, you've got the 5 different blends. It represents the melting pot. Let's move on to there's a couple of wines that we tasted that we love. Let's see, which one do we want to talk about, the Panata or the Grucchetto? But the Panata Superiore is an interesting term. I want to underscore what that means. Again, with the Panata Superiore 2022 is a blend of Grucchetto Trebbiano Toscana, aka Pracanica, and barrel fermented in French barrique, another incredibly beautiful wine. And this is barrel fermented. Talk to us about that. And again, explain to anyone who may not be aware what superiore means in Italian terms.
Superiore in most of the regulation, and also in this case, is connected with the level of alcohol. So in this case, for calling this wine superiore, Orvieto Classico Superiore, the minimum level of alcohol has to be 12%. Plus, there is another rule to respect, very much important, which is the delivery, the delivery in the market. So this wine has to be released after the 1st of March, after the harvest. So you can't release the wine in the market in January, for example, in February. Right. You have to wait the 1st of March. So this is the meaning of superiore for the Orvieto wine. So it's connected with the alcohol first and time of releasing in the market. Our Panata, as you said, is a blend of 2 grapes, Grucchetto, the king of the cellar, of my cellar, and a very much important variety for Umbria region, blended with Procanico, which is Trebbiano Toscano. Part of the wine is fermented in barrels, the remaining part is fermented in stainless steel. Then we combine the 2 parts together with basil, and we wait 2 years before releasing in the market. So again, the message is longevity. What we want to tell with these white wines, the same we did for the Primo d'Anfora and as well for the Panata, that these white wines are much better through years. If you wait a couple of years, 3, 4, 5 years, even more if you can, for enjoy the wine, because they show their best just by the time.
This is a gastronomic wine. That's what I had. Just very delicious. Savory, ripe grapefruit and tropical notes. Just great minerality. This definitely could, have some longer aging. And in my notes, I have Panata. The name is the name of a type of carafe from the Middle Ages. So again, a different type of, vessel, as they say.
This was a beautifully gastronomic wine.
A beautiful wine.
Rich and silky and had great texture and flavors and minerality to it. And I have to say, Giulia, we actually ordered this a couple of times when we were out to dinner in It wasn't just at your husband's restaurant. We did it again because it was so good.
That's very good for me.
We've been mentioning your husband's restaurant, Trattoria da Carlo, which is in Orvieto. We had a meal there. It's terrific. That's fabulous. Everybody put it on your list. Orvieto has so many amazing restaurants. We were so blessed to spend, I think, 5 days there. Like, we were not moving around. We actually got to dine out at restaurants. It was incredible. Special shout out to the consortio for setting up our trip. You also make some other wines in Orvieto, and also you have a rosato from Maremma. We had a sparkling wine that was wonderful when we had lunch at Argillae. Where are my notes on Cento Pacento? How do you say it?
Cento Pacento.
Cento Pacento. That's a mouthful. Yes. And it's a Charmat style wine, right?
Yes, it is Charmat method. And it's called 100%, which in English means 100%, because it's 100% made by us. It's 100% made in Argillae and 100% made through local varieties. So it's not the case of a sparkling wine made with Chardonnay or other international varieties, as most of the time happen. We decided instead to create a sparkling entirely made through local varieties, and we used a very special vineyard. I was mentioned a couple of minutes ago with David. So the mixed vineyard, in which in the same field, in the same vineyard, we have the 5 different varieties. It's a very old one. It's 6 years old vineyard. And in this vineyard, you will find out the 5 varieties that belong to the old Orvieto, so the Verdello, Grechetto, Gruppeggio, Malvasia, and Trebbiano Toscano, blended in the field. So I can't tell you the percentage of the variety because it's in the field, but in this sparkling, there are all these varieties blended together. And for us, it's a very special project because we really wanted to add back, we started 10 years ago, something like that. We wanted to add a sparkling wine in our portfolio, but we didn't want to create the regular sparkling wine. We really want to create something that could be able to speak about the region and especially about the Orvieto place. So that's the reason why we decided to use this old vineyard to create the sparkling wine. And totally honest, using this vineyard for creating the sparkling, I solved a big problem. Because one of the negative side of a mixed vineyard is that in the same field you have 5 different varieties, so you have to make 5 different harvests to take care of 5 different varieties. It's not so easy to handle. In this way, using all these varieties for creating just one wine, which is a sparkling, so we can harvest all of them at the same moment when they are not ripe, because for the sparkling process you don't have to harvest the grapes when they are fully ripe, that you can anticipate. You should anticipate the harvest because you will add sugar for the second fermentation. So using this old vineyard for this project, somehow I solved a big problem for us because this vineyard was very much complicated vineyard to handle.
I'm sure.
This is a lovely wine. It tastes like it has the texture of a Metodo Classico. It is a Charmat, 5 different varieties, all estate grown. Yeah, so very significant as a sparkling wine that's truly from Orvieto. We just have a little bit of time left. I want to touch on, yes, you do make a wonderful Grechetto IGT Orvieto 2024 we tasted. Made with 2 clones of the Grechetto di Toro, which is, I noted, smaller berries and bunches and very a little more aromatic. That makes with this specific type of grape. And you also make a red wine. There is, even though Orvieto is predominantly a white wine area, there are red wines made. Yours is the one we taste called Sinuoso 2023 IGT Rosso. Blend of Merlot, Cabernet, and Montepulciano. Very interesting blends there.
Yes, I have to say, first of all, that this is the only red in a family of whites, but the Sinuoso stands out beautifully. In total, we produce 90,000 bottles, 80,000 bottles are white wines, 10,000 are reds, and the only red is Sinuoso. At the moment, there is just Sinuoso, but there is another project ongoing. So we just planted a new vineyard. So in a couple of years, we will have another red made in amphora. So an alter ego for the Primo d'Amphora, but at the moment there is just Sinuoso. And we decided to, at the very beginning, Sinuoso was a Cabernet Merlot blend. Then we added a little bit of Montepulciano for making it a little bit more Italian style. But at the very beginning was a Cabernet Merlot, because at that time we really want to also we really want to add the red wine in our portfolio. And in the clay soil, the Cabernet and Merlot perform very, very, very well. So we started making a Cabernet Merlot blend. Then for many years it remains a Cabernet Merlot. Then, because also of Diaz, for my importer, they asked, can you please add some more Italian varieties? Because, we're in America and we're importing Italian wine. So we were thinking what we can combine, because it's not easy, no? You have a Cabernet Merlot. And then after many, many trials, so we found out that the Montepulciano was the perfect match, the perfect combination, because could give the Italian sense, especially for an international market, but somehow not covering all the other two varieties, but reinforcing the blend, especially in the structure and the palate. And so it ended up to be 3 varieties blend.
It's very nice wine, and as the name says, it's a silky wine, smooth and just beautiful. It's just lovely. So, Giulia de Cosimo, we've really enjoyed chatting with you. We're down to the end of the show, so let's do a quick wrap. We've been talking with Giulia de Cosimo. The winery is Argillae. The location is Orvieto in the Northwest area. The importer is VS Imports. We are in the region of Umbria in the beautiful country of Italy. You do have visitors. So if you want more information, you can go to argillae.eu to learn more. It was great to see you. If you go to Orvieto, go to Trattoria da Carlo, plug for your husband's wonderful restaurant. And hopefully we'll see you stateside soon.
Thank you so much, Melanie and David, and thank you for all the people that are watching us. I invite all of you in Umbria, in Orvieto, please come to visit us, because one thing is to talk by video, but another story is if you come here, you enjoy the place, you enjoy the wine, enjoy the food, enjoy the people. So I wait for all of you in Umbria.
Absolutely, because nothing beats visiting the region.
That's so true.
So everyone, thank you for joining us. We're Melanie Young and David Ransom. This has been The Connected Table Live. You can hear us on more than 65 podcast channels. Watch us on YouTube at The Connected Table TV. And as always, stay insatiably curious. Thank you.